In this world, being a neurodivergent person, I know how critical it is. And where you go, everywhere, is just a practice of tick boxes. We don't want tick boxes. We want you to assess right people for right job. Doesn't matter their disability, race, ethnicity, gender, they will get right proportion, isn't it?
And that's exactly right. That's what we all want. None of us want to be elevated to a role that we are not qualified or experienced to do. And why they make such a big positive difference in your executive teams, your leadership teams, and in your organisation. And it really makes sense because all the time you get people who look like you, think like you, speak like you, then you're not going to get different ideas. But once you expand that and you get people who do think differently, that's when you're going to be a creative organisation and your productivity will rise because research has shown that.
You know how to change them. Like if I give your example, like, okay, you know sports from your heart. So when you're going to be implementing sports related activities, you know what you're doing. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining today's Innovative Circle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐢𝐞, CEO at Time Research and Innovations and Marketing Agency and Telport AI. ICPcast is an initiative to bring innovative ideas, transformative strategies, and forward-thinking insight from various industries, whether it is in technology, artificial intelligence, marketing, finance, lead generation and sales, business advisory and development, tax and accounting, or sustainability. We bring you insights from the brightest minds, C-level executives, and industry leaders who are shaping the future. In today's episode, we are thrilled to welcome Janie Frampton OBE DL, Leadership and Inclusion Speaker, Team U Development, and Executive Chair FindMyKit. She is a global leader in inclusive leadership, governance, and sports development, and has been awarded the OBE for services to equality for women in sports nationally and internationally. A former FIFA instructor and FA national referee manager, Janie has spent her career breaking down barriers and empowering underrepresented voice across sports and business. She is co-founder of Team U Development, vice president of IFSO, and a trusted voice in equality, education, and strategic culture change. With decades of frontline experience and a passion for intersectionality, Janie contributes to inspire individuals and organizations to lead with purpose, empathy, and bold action. So today, our discussion topic, Janie Frampton OBE DL, Building Inclusive Culture and the Mission at Team U Development and FindMyKit. So to all our viewers, get ready for practical strategies, insightful discussion, and fresh ideas to help you grow, succeed, and make an impact. Hello, Jane. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Shah. I'm great, thank you. And thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
It is a great pleasure to talking to you today because, we have very few women in this podcast. And most of the time we see leadership is man and being a woman. And I'm very much fascinated to talk to you today. And you know that I was waiting for a long time to have this interview done. And I'm very grateful to you and your time. So thank you very much for joining today's Innovative Circle podcast. As you know that we're going to be asking you a set of questions to get our audience understand and have a detailed understanding of your work. So my first question to you, could you provide a brief overview of your business and share what inspired you to enter through this field?
Sure. So my key business is Team U Development, which is a social enterprise. And we work really hard delivering skills to particularly children and young people. So we provide lots of different programs around soft skills, social skills, employability skills, with the hope that it will help young people make positive life choices and steer them away from negative behaviours. But also we do an awful lot of work with adults, corporate organisations across world governing bodies of sports to help individuals develop themselves as well as the organisation as a whole.
That's the work you do. I have a few questions. Although these questions are not on part of the questionnaire that I shared, I have great curiosity Like, how come you become a female, first one of the female referee?
Yeah, so it's quite a long story, Dr. Shah, so I'll put it in the short version. At 15, I fell in love with football. And the only way in my early 20s that I could get involved in football was to take up refereeing, which is what I did. But I never realised that for me to succeed in my sport, that my biggest barrier would be my gender. I was very naive then to realise that that was the case. Football didn't want us as women. They didn't know what to do with us. So it was quite a challenge to actually become a successful woman referee in football and then transfer those skills into my professional world.
It's fascinating. Where there is, you talk about equality, you talk about a lot of different things. Still, we are not out there. But the way you challenge the world is amazed many people and generations to come. So my next question, could you discuss the key issues in your industry and explain how your efforts are making difference to your clients and your collaborators?
Yeah, so the key issues, I guess, across sport and industry is still most of the decision makers are male. So when you're looking at women growing and becoming leaders themselves, it's very difficult for them to do that. There's a human element that men, and this is very well researched, this is not my voice, it's very well researched that men will appoint in their own likeness, people like them, who think like them, necessarily look like them, which is why we get most of the leaders, we have in business and industry are white men. So we're trying to change that narrative that says, actually, we have to be inclusive here. And we all bring something completely different to the role. So that is what we work really hard to do. And I've had some great success stories across sport and industry of actually achieving that.
That's great explanation, Jane. My next question, who are the clients you aim to help and what key benefits do you deliver to them?
So the clients I work with, mainly international sports organisations, so people like World Athletics, World Rugby. I work for some of the big financial houses in the world. And we look at creating inclusive environments. And it's not just a tick box. It is actually believing that everybody who works for that organisation should feel comfortable and they should feel they belong in that environment. So that's what we try and do. And most of what we do is where the existing leaders and executive teams, they don't realise that they're not being inclusive. So it's sometimes just a case of opening their eyes to actually best practice and how they could actually improve their business and their productivity by being more inclusive.
I totally agree with you. In this world, being a neurodivergent person, I know how critical it is. And where you go, everywhere, it's just a practice of tick boxes. Like you tick one boxes, you safeguard yourself from government legislation. Like, in 25 people, you can have only one disabled person. So if you tick one boxes that you have one disabled person, you are covered. But what will happen the rest of the disabled person? And that in the UK, 15% of the population are neurodivergent. When you have a huge population in the neurodivergent and you have these tick boxes, unless person like you intervene with a proper plan, like, okay, we don't want tick boxes. We want you to assess right people for right job. Doesn't matter their disability, race, ethnicity, gender, they will get right proportion, isn't it?
And that's exactly right. That's what we all want. None of us want to be elevated to a role that we are not qualified or experienced to do. However, we also want a fairness where people who have protected characteristics or are from minority groups are not overlooked because they're not seen to be the norm in those roles. And I have to say to you, Dr. Shah, I read an incredible book recently, and I probably shouldn't give it a plug, but I'm going to. And it was Matthew Said's Rebel Ideas. And he talks so much about neurodivergent people and why they make such a big positive difference in your executive teams, your leadership teams, and in your organization. And it really makes sense because all the time you get people who look like you, think like you, speak like you, then you're not going to get different ideas. But once you expand that and you get people who do think differently, that's when you're going to be a creative organization and your productivity will rise because research has shown that.
I totally agree with you because I was doing another podcast last week So it was Toucan Diversity, one of the organization in the Southeast, and they are disabled people, and they have a disabled organization, so led by disabled people. So when you have disability, you know how to change them. Like if I give your example, like, okay, sports from your heart. So when you're going to be implementing sports related activities, you know what you're doing. So if I go over there and take your position and control that, I'm not going to do that very well. So it's the normal norm that, okay, people, they are think alike. Yes, they can do work with you, but they cannot bring changes. People, they don't think alike, they can.
And neurodivergent people in your team are huge for actually being that creativeness, that innovative, that thinking differently, that change. And they seem to do it, well, naturally, because it's who they are. And that's what we need to learn from. So, regardless of your protected characteristic, people bring something very different to your team.
I totally agree. So thank you very much for joining today's podcast. I'm Dr. 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐢𝐞, and I have Janie Frampton OBE DL. So I just wanted to ask you another questions, because as you know that you have awarded the OBE. Can you tell us a bit more about your award, how you have achieved that, and why you have given this award to you?
So I'm, of course, truly humbled and honoured to be awarded. And I'm still in shock after all of this time, because I think there's some amazing people out there who have done amazing things, so it's very difficult then to realise that you've been honoured in such a way. But I do an awful lot of work with young people, with children, with women and girls around the world. I look at countries where girls are not perhaps treated as fairly as they should be, and we educate the men and the families. So the work we do is not about leaving men out of it. The men are a huge part of our conversation, because they are our allies and our advocates. All the time that they have the majority role as the leaders in the house and in business, we have to work with them, because that's right. So why would you shut them out? So I do an awful lot of work with underrepresented groups. I have a passion for Muslim women. I'm the patron of the Muslim Women's Network in the UK, and I've challenged many authorities around the rights and protection of Muslim girls and women, particularly in sport. And so I guess I'm very passionate about what I do, and I'm not afraid to stand up for unfairness.
I totally get you how you explain this, because being a white person representing a underrepresented community is quite brave, isn't it? And while it is Muslim, as I'm Muslim myself, I understand the inner mechanism of people and Muslim. They don't want women to go to sports. They want women to stay at home and look after their children. But you are changing the world for the betterment of the people. You can name few women leaders in this country and in sports as well, like bandit like Beckham. We all know about that story, the way the community works. Can you tell us a bit more essence of your work with the Muslim women? How do you transform them?
So we did some work with, I fully appreciate that culturally it is difficult for women to be involved in sport. I get this, Muslim women, I do get this. So we trod very carefully so the girls didn't have to compromise their culture or upset their families. But it's also a fact that the physically unfittest demographic in the UK are Muslim women and Asian women. So we knew we had to do something. So we have short 6-week programs where we have once a week, we meet a certain amount of Muslim women. We signpost them to a different sport every week so they can try it in a safe space. And then we can signpost them to where they can take part in their community if they like it. And we also have discussion groups while we're together networking. We have an online platform where they can dip in and dip out in their own time around confidence building and resilience and things like that, and all of those soft skills. But we are really careful not to tread on the toes of the family unit, But do you know what? Most Muslim men these days in the Western world, they want their women to have a full life. It's changed, as you well know, Dr. Shah, that it has changed. And so they like the fact that their women are just not only looking after the families now, but some of them have amazing careers. And now some of them now can play sport, which we've got some great advocates within sport of Muslim women. And they're playing sport with a hijab, which is even better news.
I can sense it because, I can see many Muslim women and African Muslim women because, if you think about Bangladeshi or Asian or Indian Muslim women, they are more liberal than the African or Arabian one. So
Yeah,
when,
the Middle East.
when you see that women in hijab playing basketball, how amazing that is.
Yeah. I was part of Project Group when in 2006 FIFA banned the wearing of hijab in football. And in 2011, Prince Ali bin Hussein of Jordan, who was on FIFA Executive Committee at the time, he decided he was going to challenge that ruling with FIFA. So I was called in as one of the technical experts from around the world, and we would meet in Jordan and we would break down the rationale that FIFA had for the banning of the hijab. And so in 2012, the ban was lifted, which meant 660,000 women of footballing age, could not now compromise their culture in order for them to play their sport. And then, of course, once football broke it down, other sports broke it down. So it was a huge achievement, because it had to be done. Muslim women have the right to do exactly the same as a Christian woman or any other religious woman.
Oh, Jane, I'm very proud of you, the work you do. The way you describe things, I think our viewers, they're going to love it because, adjusting a little bit of the things in the top can steer growth in the bottom massively. So I can sense myself, I was born in Bangladesh, a rural village, and then brought up in Dhaka. My father died when I was 4. My mother struggled, but we were 11 brothers and sisters. So you can imagine I was number 10. I was autistic and I did not know that. So my mother did not knew that I was autistic. So, but she gave us all the things, all the education and everything, the small adjustment make us who I am now. So women behind me to get this success. Then my wife came in, my mother-in-law. She was the first female accountant in Bangladesh. So you can imagine that the way I see women, behind my success, I can see the similar way behind you are steering a lot of families, a lot of women in a right manner. So now I understand that why you are being awarded the OBE, because it's not like that they just awarded for no. The thing you said, that one thing changed the entire world race. Thank you. I will jump into my conversation again. Yes, sorry.
And I guess one of the other things I'm really proud of is the work I do in the Caribbean. So if you look at the girls' opportunities in the Caribbean, they are very limited. So UNICEF figures show that girls and women in the Caribbean, they've got the second highest young teenage pregnancies in the world. They have things like the statistics on their first sexual experience between the age of 11 and 14 happens in the family, because it seems to be a rite of passage and the girls don't have a voice to say no. So we're now having to educate, families, not just the men, but the families, to understand that the girls have a right to say no. And they have a right to a future, and they have a right to having good careers. And it doesn't mean to say they have to be pregnant at 14. So these strong reasons to make sure that women are supported in the underrepresented world, really.
I get you what you are doing in the community. So thank you very much for your great work. My next question to you, what makes your approach unique to helping this huge population?
Sorry, I understand the question.
What makes your approach unique in helping the clients and achieving these outcomes?
Sure, thank you. So I think I have a unique approach because I have such a lived backstory. I have survived and succeeded as an underrepresented woman in a very male-dominated world of football. And because I have learned so many skills and I have so many tools now how to deal with difficult situations, I think that unique backstory helps me to go forward, because I had to have a voice in football. I had to make my own voice because nobody wanted to listen otherwise. And even whether it's on the football field with the players or whether it was my role within the FA and with FIFA, you have to find your voice. And I wanted to make sure that I gave women and underrepresented groups that voice.
That's fascinating, Jen. My next question to you, are partnership part of your business model? And from your partner's perspective, what benefits make you ideal collaborator?
Well, I think because we are quite unique in what we do, we're not like a normal leadership program. We're not like a normal social enterprise program. What we do is very innovative. We do things differently. This whole wraparound 360-degree education, not core education, but it's about preparing young people to be life ready and work ready. And I speak to the universities all the time, and they say that they prepare young people academically in colleges and universities, but they don't prepare them for life and they don't prepare them for work. So it's about giving young people some sort of resilience, because I find more and more now young people don't have a resilience to survive against adversity. And life is a challenge. And these young people are going to come across a load of challenges. So it's about giving them the skills to be able to deal with it when it comes along.
It's totally true, because I was an academic. I was in the field academia. But when you do business, academy and business, it's just like chicken and egg situation. It's just like when they teach students, they take the theoretical thing, but they don't give any practical implementation. So it's just like when you finish education in college, schools, or whatever, you are in the field of practical things, and you just like it's an ocean. Like, okay, where you go, what you do, how you do, all those things. And I think the way you say 360 degree, people really don't understand what's the meaning of 360 degree. They think that, okay, 360 degree means you see everywhere. But to achieve 360 degree in your work or in your business and all your training, it's very difficult task to do, because 360 degree makes you perfect, isn't it?
That's the aim. But I guess our wraparound 360 is to create a whole person. Not just an academic person or a person that only does manual work or low-level skills. We want to create the whole person, so they know what social awareness is, they know what communication skills are and body language, and they know the employability skills, so they can put themselves forward in the best possible way possible. And conflict management is another one that we deliver, because young people, you've only got to say boo now and they jump, because they don't have any resilience when it comes to any conflict management and how to stay calm, and all of these things are around, making sure that you're calm within yourself before you try and deal with sort of challenging situations. All of these things are things that we're trying to teach young people to make them ready for life and work.
That's great and fascinating, Jenny. And thank you very much for joining today's Innovative Circuit podcast. So to all viewers, we're going to be going to a small break before we jump into more in detail questions. Until our break, stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Great conversations start with thought-provoking ideas, and visionary leaders turn them into reality. Meet Dr. 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐞, an entrepreneur, AI strategist, and business growth partner dedicated to helping professionals and companies push boundaries, innovate, and thrive to drive transformation.
Did you know that 92% of executives consider digital transformation and AI adaptation are essential for staying competitive in today's market? Furthermore, companies that use data-driven insights for decision-making also see a 23% boost in profitability compared to those that don't. Through ICPcast, we bring together the brightest minds in AI, business, finance, marketing, and other tentative fields to deliver strategies that drive measurable success.
Dr. Shah is the founder and C-level executive and leads multiple startups, including 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐞 Marketing Agency, Neurodivergent Business Consortium, NBC, Time Research and Innovation, TRI, and Green Threads DPP. He is AI and technology expert and helps businesses harness AI for scalability and efficiency. He is a sales and business growth strategist and the creator of the Sales Funnel Accelerator, SFA program, to guide C-suite executives to maximize conversions and revenue.
You might be surprised to learn innovation isn't just about your ideas. It's about execution. In fact, only 10% of companies successfully turn their innovative ideas into scalable strategies. Why? The rest struggle with execution. Businesses that focus on effective implementation rather than just ideation 3 times more likely to outperform their competitors. After working with industry leaders and disruptors, I have learned one thing. Success isn't just about what you know, it's about how you apply it. That's why I created Sales Funnel Accelerator and ICPcast to provide actionable insights that you can apply right way to drive business growth and innovation.
Podcasting is now one of the most powerful tools for business influence, with 80% of listeners taking action after hearing expert insights. And when it comes to driving sales, 78% of social sellers outperform peers who don't use social media for business networking.
Are you ready to be the part of the conversation that is shaping the future of business? Let's explore innovation, strategy, and leadership together. Book your cast with me today. Hello everyone, welcome back to the ICPcast. I'm Dr. 𝐏𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐢𝐞𝐫𝐞 and I have Janie Frampton OBE DL. We have got some exciting insights coming up. So stay with us and we will dive deeper into the world of mentorships, innovation, and let's get started. So Jenny, thank you very much for joining today's podcast. And I'm enjoying your every individual sentences you are saying to me because it resonates with me. You know that before we went our break, you talked about 360-degree creating people that fascinate me because the way it can support individuals unless they work with you or don't understand these settings, they don't understand it what you meant. So I think that everyone they're watching this podcast would contact you and talk to you how you can implement your framework for their advancement. So my next question, could you share your insight on upcoming industry trend and how you are adapting to remain ahead
in industry?
Yes.
So, as you know, Dr. Shah, I'm also the president of the Global Chamber of Commerce in Birmingham.
Yes.
So it's really at the forefront right now about industry, trade, what it means to the UK, what it means globally. So there's quite a few things that are going to be shaping this. And one of them will be the relationship that we can create, not just with America, but with other countries and the strength of Europe working closer together.
Mhm.
And of course, at the moment, the world is a very volatile place anyway. So when you're trying to actually come to trade agreements when the world is turning upside down, it's actually quite a challenge. So the political stress right now around who you work with and why and what are the outcomes and the benefits, that is quite interesting.
Mhm.
And I think the one thing that America has done in recent months, it's made the rest of the world think differently. So I think it's a great opportunity. And I hosted 100 days of Trump breakfast at the chamber last week. And we talked about the opportunities of actually finding new markets to trade with, markets where the tariffs are low or non-existent, and different types of trade that we wouldn't normally have touched before. Let's explore. So I've been really clear now in my role that we're looking at the region, what trade is going on in the region, and then what countries we need to start to build relationships with in order to create that bilateral trade relationships. So it's actually a very exciting time right now.
I totally agree with you because, you know, when some drastic incident doesn't happen, you don't fix your problems, isn't it? You don't think differently. So I think in a good way, Trump has created this opportunity for the world to think differently. You are right. So my next question to you, can you discuss a major obstacle you have overcome and lessons you have applied to your professional approach?
So I think the biggest struggles in my world has been for people to listen to me because, again, particularly in sport, but also in other areas of business, women were not given the voice at the higher levels. So when you haven't got women at the decision-making levels at the top, then you're not going to get more women coming up through the system. Now, whether that's in sport or business and industry. So I think the biggest struggle is to find the allies and advocates in our male colleagues who can support you on that journey on the way up. And I say to you now really clearly, some men have been huge barriers to my career, but then some have been absolutely amazing and I would never have achieved without them. So our strong male allies and advocates are there, We just need to make sure that we identify who they are. So I think that's my biggest struggle, is identifying who's walking with me and who's going to be that barrier.
Thank you. I wish this relation, I think we can extend to the next levels, complementing each other. I know culture very well. I also know this, the struggle and all of the things in the community in relation with Muslim community. There are lots of stories of things. And if we can overcome those things, you can create an inclusive culture. And I think adding that value will support generation to come. So thank you very much for adding this value. So my next question is, how do you measure your success of your professional work, both in your business and for the clients you serve?
Well, mainly that's in some of my jobs, that is done easily because, for example, with World Athletics, we looked at globally how many women were on the executive teams on each continent for World Athletics, how many women were on the Council of World Athletics or the board, how many were vice presidents, which was nil. So when we started, we had a numerical figure. So it was really easy after certainly the first couple of years, then look at the promotion of women into the responsible leadership job within each continent. And even we had, after 2 years, our first woman vice president of World Athletics. So that was really easy to measure. And I think the other way we measure within sport and business is the women that we train and develop, how many get promoted, how many do manage to succeed within their space and their sector. And so that's really easy to measure as well. It might even be something simple, like if we're working in the Caribbean, that, a group of the girls might set up their own football club or their own athletic club, or they might have put themselves up for a better job within tourism or education. So we can measure a lot of those things. And I'm sure there's also an awful lot that we can't measure, where we are affecting people, or children and young people's thinking without realizing it.
Yeah, this talk is giving me lots of things to think about in the future. Because, the way you're describing everything in detail, I think I never come across like that from a woman thinking about a greater prospects. Thank you very much. My next question, can you share a story of a particularly rewarding project or client success that highlights your impact?
So I guess we can. So one of the projects I was working on is, we started with World Athletics, and then I started working for every continent to make sure that it was cascading down. And we did a lot of work in Europe, and then a lot of work for the Irish Athletics Association. Every year we went across and developed the women further, and the amount of women who were now achieving greater things, it was fantastic. And one woman, she had a lot of confidence. She was very young when she first came to us in 2019. She was only about 20. And by the time we were still developing her, she was about 23. And she was now leading the whole women's development for Ireland. And that was amazing. But she was still stuck in Ireland. And I said, look, you're an amazing woman. You have the confidence. You have the specialism. You need to grow. And the only way you're going to grow is to move. And she finally left her family, left her job. And now she's heading up a huge sports project in Australia, because she just needed the confidence to let go of that comfort blanket, to go and spread her wings and explore and make the very best of who she was.
Fascinating, Janie. It's really fascinating. Thank you very much. My next question, what skills or traits do you think have been most important to your success as an innovator?
What skills?
Yes, skills or traits you think that most beneficial.
Sure. I think I'm very stubborn. So when I see unfairness, I have to challenge it. The skill I've learned most in the years is you can't fight every battle. So you have to pick your battles carefully, and then you fight it to the bitter end. And for me, that's been really important. So that's my stubbornness. And I do believe I read people very well. So I strategically step forward with individuals and situations really carefully, so that I bring them with me rather than turning them against me. And sometimes it's really, really difficult, because all you really want to do is say, look, I really don't like you, but you can't. You have to work with them, and you have to do that to achieve your outcome. And I do find that the patience of strategically managing these situations has been instrumental in my achievements.
Thank you. I can see the way you achieved your success. It's, I think, can compare millions of women to one. And there are like this, because women's, as you said earlier, that you have to trust yourself, that you are a great woman and you can change your lives, including others. Then you can change it. Otherwise, no. As I discussed earlier, that I had a brain tumor surgery, I was autistic, and people thought that, okay, end of my life. I cannot do even, I didn't pass my graduation, but I turned it around differently by believing me. Like, okay, I have greater aspects and I can contribute and I can change my lives and others. And that was the thing.
And you've got to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. Because you won't display the confidence if you don't believe in yourself. And that's really important.
I totally agree. So thank you, Janie. Well, we just have few more minutes. I know that you have to go. I'm just going to ask you the last questions. Do you have anything to add to the viewers?
I think the only thing I would always add is you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anybody tell you you can't achieve your goals. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do this because you can. And it's having that belief in your ability and your ability to succeed. And so you really do. You have to go out there and you have to do it. You have to make your choices and you have to take responsibility for your choices.
Thank you. That was a great conversation today with you, Janie. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in the Innovator Circle podcast. We hope today's conversation with Janie Frampton OBE DL has sparked fresh ideas and powered valuable insights to elevate your business strategies, whether it is business development, mentoring, sales, finance, innovation. Don't forget to subscribe later at ICPcast, as well as subscribe to our YouTube channels on Sales Funnel Accelerator. Please like our page on LinkedIn. And until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and keep leading the way of innovation. Thank you, and bye-bye. Thank you, Janie, and bye-bye.
Thank you.